Well, welcome back, subscribers and those who just stumbled on the channel. So here we are in part one of the assembly. This will be a two-part feature where we go through step by step, talk about the pieces and parts that are going on the Super 2 and just the things that I've learned along the way and what, to the best of my knowledge, I believe to be the most accurate of parts that belong on these cars. So if you're looking to buy, you can start with the front wheels here. You see occasionally online, AJ's put out a reproduction wheel that looks very similar to the original. If you look closely, the AJ wheels are very flat and machined on the surface, where you can see that a Super 2 wheel has a bit of a roll to the inside of it and a little bit shinier. So if you're looking at a car on eBay and you're trying to determine, okay, what's original equipment and what's not, this is a good indicator. For me, this is one thing that I look for if I'm trying to identify what's original and what's not. Both were designed for the same purpose, lightweight, aluminum, coned wheels with O-rings, but they are definitely different. So hopefully you can see the differences here in what I see, but definitely a different wheel, but very close and very similar in nature. Trying to capture the light on them just right so you can kind of see that. You can see one of these packages is Super 2 original equipment and the other one is an AJ aftermarket hop-up wheel. So sometimes you'll see them listed as Super 2, but that is not the case when they're on the AJ side. They're not original replacement equipment. So we'll go ahead and try to fit these front axles. Luckily, this is the original that came on the barn find, and actually turned out super nice. Got it all polished up. But yeah, luckily I was able to get these apart, which is unusual. Sometimes they won't come apart. So if you pull on yours, if you try to go through the cleaning process or restoration process, don't force it. You take a really good chance at bending the axles, and then they're really hard to get straight again. But this one luckily did come apart, and so that was nice. So we'll take a little deeper dive into the armature. We did get it cleaned up already in the cleaning episodes, but I do want to check it. We want to make sure that it's ohming correctly. You can actually have a fully functioning Super 2 armature that doesn't perform up to par. And that is because they do come double wire wound. And so if you have a single wire break, they'll still run, but they won't perform as they should. So what we're looking for here is anywhere from a 4 to a 4.5 ohm range. Typically lower is better, is what I found. This one actually ohmed out fantastically well at 4.0 ohms. So that's really solid. And it ought to be a pretty strong engine here. Turned out really good. Some things that you'll notice difference between the Super 2 if you're not familiar. This is just like a standard mean green style armature. You can notice that the outer perimeter on the Super 2 has kind of a swish to it, and that a standard is straight across. That really doesn't affect the timing. What affects timing of the armature, because the Super 2 has 5 degrees, is how the plate is, the actual copper commutator plate piece of it is timed in relation to the prongs on the armature. And I'm trying to do a side-by-side. It's a bit of a hard shot, slightly blurry, but you could see on the Super 2 that it was actually just behind the center point of the actual armature lamentation prong that holds the plate on. Here you can kind of see the differences. If you pause and zoom in, Super 2s had a quadrilarm, so there were 4 plates, whereas a mean green had a 2-lam plate. So that is definitely a distinct difference if you're trying to identify what's real and what's not. Now you can wind a 2-lam armature and it'll perform very similarly, but for quadrilarm is definitely unique. Now this is the top gear going on to the armature here. I want to compare it to a standard. So from time to time you'll see them online, but you'll notice the one on the right is silver and the one on the left is brass. So Super 2s came with the silver plated gear, or tin plated. I'm not quite sure why, other than they just distinctly look different. Now, I have made the mistake of trying to polish one of these before and using a light sanding on it, and I found they're brass underneath. So it's not solid, it is coated, but that's definitely something to distinctly separate them from a T-Jet or an AFX magnet traction, non-magnet traction, is the color of that gear. Super 2s were silver, so very unique in that regard. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just fitting that gear. My experience, Super 2s will either wear the shaft, or these gears are so soft that they will typically not fit very tight. This one fits snug, and I do expect it to hold well. But I like to just take a little bit of touch of red Loctite, and we'll just put a little bit on the inside there, and then we'll likely put a little bit right here on the armature. But I'll do that, and then I'll still use a pressing tool to make sure it's perfectly square and everything seats properly. But once this Loctite sets up, it's solid. It's not going anywhere. You don't have to worry about it spinning off. I've seen and fixed quite a few Super 2s where this gear goes on, that the material is eaten away. I've seen some folks solder them. I think that was the old school way of doing it. I would highly suggest not doing that. A touch of Loctite is great because you can break it loose if you need to by using a removal tool, and it'll come on apart, and it doesn't damage the armature shaft. So this is a great way to kind of supplement, and you don't have to run the risk of exposing the armature or the upper plate to any heat or solder or anything like that, and it doesn't damage that gear itself. So you can see I'm just going to go ahead and put it in this little tool, press that on, and I'll double check it to make sure it's the right depth. Super 2 shaft was slightly recessed above that gear. They weren't flush and they weren't above. So we just kind of want to dial that in, get it in a sweet spot, and then we'll call it good. And we'll set it to the side, and it'll usually take, I usually take about 24 hours before I really put it under pressure. I just like to give it a good curing time. There you go. That turned out pretty good. Now just cleaning any excess residue off of there, and see it doesn't hurt a thing in the world, doesn't stain, doesn't change anything about it, and you wouldn't even know it if I didn't tell you or didn't show you. But I felt it was important because we don't want that gear flying off. If you in this case happen to purchase this car or any other, you don't want it flying off going around the track. Now we'll go ahead and get those magnets in. Now I'm going to take the time to position these where the two dimples are facing each other. Now, whether they go top or bottom, it's a good question. Your guess is as good as mine. I can't say that I've seen them more one way than the other, or actually seen one unboxed to know which way they're supposed to go. If someone knows, by all means, please do tell me. What I understand to be the reasoning for this is the dots go together, and that way you've got a push-pull effect to the magnets, and so you're getting peak performance of them. You will see hop-up magnets out there that are the same colors, and they came from AFX as a kit. But most of those did not, or to the best of my knowledge, none of them had the dimples in them. Possibly they did. Now they may have offered a replacement for the Super 2 as well, but there are differences between the hop-up blue and yellow and the Super 2 blue and yellow with the dimples. Now I got the front weight on there, but what's unique about a Super 2 is this little pin is black. You'll see it's also made of the Durland, the same material that the chassis and the upper plate are made of. And so you have to put that in conjunction with that front weight. Slide it in and lock it in, because once that front plate is on and attached and has a screw through it, you're not getting that pin off of there. Now the screws were different too. So if you ran AJs and you did that in the past, or any screw-on axle for that matter, they too were brass. However, the Super 2 came with the same exact nut in terms of size, shape, but they were silver. And here's an example side by side. So occasionally you will see them pop up where someone has put a brass nut on the bottom, and that is incorrect. These Super 2s came with the silver nut and the steel flathead screw coming down from the top. Sometimes that can be a little tricky because that magnet likes to bite into them and snatch it away from you before you get it lined up. So now we know this is as it should be. I actually had some extras, so that worked out good. I'll just take his 3-way tool and snug this down. We don't get too crazy here. Now, if you were going to play with this a lot, you might consider putting a little touch of Loctite on this too. I might go with the blue instead of the red on this particular case. It's not going to see a lot of abuse, just some vibration. I've got 4 of these cars that I actually play with that are not showpieces, and I have had the screws vibrate loose before. So consider that if you're playing with yours, or you get this one, you might want to take that back apart and put a touch of blue Loctite on it. It's not quite as strong as the red, but would certainly do the trick to just make sure to keep it from backing off. So we may have got ahead of ourselves here with this side weights. I may have to pop this front axle back out of there, but not a big deal. I don't like to tweak and twist on the weights to try to force them in. I like them to slide in very easily. So what we may do here is, just to free it up and give us a little extra room, we'll pop this front axle back out. Won't take but just a second. And that way it gives us a little more flexibility, and we can slide these little clips up through the side chassis and then slide it into place on the front. And this way we're not tweaking and bending on the brackets at all to force it into place. I prefer not to do that. I like to take my time and make sure it settles right down into that groove like it should. And then once that's done, then we can go ahead and pop that front axle back in there. Very nice. So now everything looks nice. I've seen these pins built all kinds of ways, which this particular set, this is original, came on this car. Had to straighten them out a little bit, but they weren't terrible. And got them back looking like they should from the factory. Now, real quick and easy, we slide this front axle back together, and there we go. We're moving right along. And we're going to try to get this thing close to being a roller here before the end of this first episode of the reassembly. But the biggest piece is, if you're watching the entire video, we're trying to walk through the individual pieces and why they're different and things that you should look for. Here's another one, the rear gears. So the Super 2 is very unique in that it came with a 19-tooth rear gear. Here's a T-Jet and an AFX magnet traction, non-magnet traction gear. You can see they are definitely different. If I'm not mistaken, these are 15-tooth gears, either 14 or 15 for magnet traction, and the 19-tooth for the Super 2. And to even add on top of that, which makes it more confusing, there is an aftermarket American line version, and then there's a Super 2 version. So I'm going to give you a little tip that I've learned along the way. The Super 2, as you can see in this in that steel frame, has like slight machining marks that come in from the outside perimeter towards the inside middle hole. This is how I identify what's original and what's not. A lot of the aftermarket reproduction actually had a number that was embossed on the Super 2 gear on the back. Both are 19-tooth, both work just fine. But what's determining what's real and what's not in terms of originality is super important. One thing I did learn along the way over the last year or so is you can have an original Super 2 gear in gray and black. And the way that I identify these is by by that little mark, it looks like milling marks on the tooth side of the gear. Here's a shot of the back side. The one in the middle is black. The one on the right is gray. And the one on the left is gray. But that 4 right there tells me that this is a reproduction item, whereas these other two do not have that. Now I'll flip it over, and if you look closely, inside of the teeth towards the center hub, you'll notice a mill mark. Those mill marks tell me this is an original production item, whereas the one on the far left does not have that. It's a very smooth design, smooth casting, and that's how I would tell whether it was an original item or not. You can see those marks right there on the inside, but nothing here on this one on the far left. Initially, when I started getting into these, I thought that they had to be black to be original, but then found that as I purchased more of them, that was not the case, that you actually can have gray ones as well. But if you see that number on there, it's probably a good indicator. So as we round out this episode, I'm showing you, I'm just going to do one, and to keep time limited here and keep it tight, I'm just going to show you truing up a single tire. I did true up both for this application. They were rims, as you saw in the cleaning episode, and I had new foam that I installed on them, and now I'm truing them down to original Super 2 size, and we'll also round the outer edge as they came when they were new as well. So I'll try to get all that in. I will admit my battery was getting a little bit low here, so try to squeeze this in as fast as we can. Now this tool, if you're wondering, is actually an armature truing tool for larger slots and RCs. So not exactly designed for this particular application. They do make tire truing tools, but I found this as a reasonable deal, and I thought it was cool and I could multi-purpose it. So I bought this and then made the adapter to be able to mount the Super 2 wheel and tire to it. So right now I'm just doing the outer surface to get the diameter of the tire correct. Run it over a couple of times just to make sure it's good and clean. And I'm taking another one that I've already trued and setting in front so I can gauge the amount of roll that's on that outer edge. And then I'll take this fingernail file, don't let your wife see it. Taking this fingernail file, and then we'll just smooth up this outer edge to get a nice natural roll to it, to cut off that squareness. A true square cut rear tire is not accurate, as these cars were produced with that smooth edge, and I think that was to keep them from biting if the cars were stepping out and sliding on the track. So that's what I'm doing here, is just that outer edge, giving it a little round. And it takes a bit more pressure than you think, so you can take your time. So I'm kind of gauging it up, trying to get it a little closer. Now what I'm going to do is just true up the inside towards the rim, make sure that's nice and smooth. This was a foam tire replacement where it was like a 2-in-1. The width was more than twice as wide as necessary to replace the Super 2, so I split them in half between the left and the right. And so I did just cut them with a razor blade, and now that I have it on the jig, I can actually run this in and true up the inside to make sure it's nice and clean and smooth on the inside as well. It creates a better finished product and looks more like the original when it's all done and complete. Listen, as we wrap up this final section of this assembly part 1, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe. to the channel. That way you'll be notified when the next video comes out. And there is a surprise coming up in this last video on the assembly. So be sure to tune in for that. Thanks again.